God Almighty, this is the Sweat Echo 8 podcast. I'm your host, Law Smith. We are recording this from the, as we like to call it, the Cigar City Studios in the Toco Works office, my company. You need some digital nerd shit? We're who you call. I'll explain it to you in real terms, unlike other nerds. I'll talk about this nerd rage I had the other day in a second. But before I bring in our guest, check us out on the Laughable app. This is a new app that came out kind of within the comedy community. Since I am a comedian as well, I'm able to be listed on there. So the idea with the Laughable app is you download it, and then you tag all the comedians you like. So you like me, and I end up going on my buddy Nick Snap's Make It Snappy podcast. It'll give you, like, it won't push a notification. It's just when you open up the app, it'll give you that, like, hey, Law was over here on this one. You want to listen to him talk about productivity and lean strategies, Six Sigma shit? Well, there you go. I'm on Nick Snap's podcast. So make sure to download that. It's kind of an upstart app. I heard about it through Bert Kreischer and his podcast, who is the pride of Tampa Jesuit, as am I. Although I'll never really claim that. I'll just let Bert claim that. And I think Ari Shaffir's got some skin on that. Some big comedians kind of pulled in, and they I think have some investment in it. And if you don't like that, that's fine. That's not your thing. You're more of an iTunes person. Either one, give us a 5-star review, write a little review, and then that's how we kind of geek up the rankings. So this is kind of a business. The idea of this show is kind of businessy. I'm going to try to throw some dick jokes in every now and again, but just to keep it kind of fun, because some of this stuff, when we get really in depth in some areas, I can feel a lot of people drifting out. I like the minutia of business. I like some of the like curiosity things, but this podcast is about motivation or, goal setting or what you want to do or what you fucked up on, just general small business kind of talk. So with that being said, our guest sitting here watching me do this intro, which is very awkward when someone's in the room. I'm not trying to make eye contact with you.
You look good, bro.
While I'm doing it is old buddy of mine and attorney and owner of Hillsborough Defense, Brett Metcalf.
I'm just here for the dick jokes.
Get closer to that robot microphone, dick.
All up in my
See?
face,
Now
right?
you
There we
now
go.
you can hear it.
There
This
I
is your
am.
first podcast,
Right
so
on.
if some people just start drifting away like this, I'll just say, hey, let's bring it in a little closer. This is a very informal podcast, as you can guess.
I've already used the word dick once. So.
Yeah. Well, it's not a big deal. You don't have to be. It's weird, man. The PR era is kind of. I thought we dealt with it when you and I were 90s kids, right? Remember, PC was kind of a big deal when we were like in 5th grade, 95.
A little bit.
Well, I feel like it was kind of. I thought that was the peak, but now we're in this weird confluence of super PC and then super like not PC because of the PC movement. So you have like
Lots of loud competing factors on both sides.
well, you have like Milo Yiannopoulos,
Right.
like just I'd say like that's the antithesis of like I'm just gonna challenge everybody's kind of freedom of speech and stuff, and or I'm just gonna challenge people in the way they feel about how they hear certain trigger words. As a comedian, I'm always on the Abby Hoffman side. I'm always a First Amendment guy. And I always think like, I know it from doing stand-up that sometimes you say a word, people aren't really paying attention, and it's harder than ever to get everybody's attention. But if I say a word and people don't hear the whole setup to the joke, they just hear the word. Let me give you for instance. Like I used to say like, I don't have any black friends. This is like a corny setup. Sometimes you got to do these like short sets where you just need to do dun jokes before you can get into the fun ones. Sometimes like the crowd doesn't know you, so you got to do these jokes that are like, okay, this guy's funny. Now we'll allow him to do other stuff.
It's like some icebreakers.
Yeah. So I used to do a joke. I'll probably still do it every now and again, which is like I don't have any black friends, and you can't which I do basically because of comedy. We grew up in a really white atmosphere. No, it's not our fault. But anyway, that's a side note. But like I'm like I don't have any black friends, and it's weird. You can't just it's weird to try to meet any new guy friends like when you're 30s, let alone like really trying to target black dudes like at a bar like, hey, LeBron, huh?
And you don't want to specifically target minorities just so that you can get more like street cred on that issue.
I'd be like, I went on blackpeoplemeet.com, and then
how'd that work out for you?
And it turns out I didn't spell that correctly, and then they're like, oh, but no, some people don't get that. That's a wordplay joke that. It's about the back to dicks,
right?
Always back to dicks.
And I think I actually remember hearing that joke in one of your sets.
It's a little corny. I like wordplay. I like puns. I like stuff like that. And actually, it's a good gauge to see where the audience is at. Sometimes you do these kind of conditional logic jokes where you're like, all right, if they get this is going to be sweet. If they don't get this is going to be rough. And I'm going to have to dip into the crowd and really get them up. So like people wouldn't be paying attention. And then they'd hear something about black dudes, but they didn't really. And sometimes if I'm drinking, I'll sound more Southern for whatever reason. But I say y'all, so that's another trigger where that people think I'm really Southern when I'm not. I just like contractions. And if you listen to last episode, we talked about that a little bit. But it's that thing of like they only heard me say black people, and then it's like, oh, well, you're not funny or something like that. They're not even paying. They get mad.
Yeah,
it's
they tune
weird.
you out.
And
but I feel like in comedy you have like a special forum in a sense because people are expecting to go there and be offended in some way, and so it makes it more.
Oh, really? You think so?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe
you're giving too much credit to the audience.
That's possible.
My crowds are free ticket crowds.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that you get called about.
Right,
the comedy club's like, hey, you won free tickets. It's like they're basically saying, hey, get your ass in the seat and buy a bunch of drinks because that's how we make money.
Right. Yeah, which makes sense. I understand why they do that, but I don't know, man. I mean, when you talk about censorship and PR culture, I think you guys have a very unique setting in the comedy business, and the fact that you get pushed back in there, I think, is probably pretty indicative of the way that our society is going. If you want to go off on that tangent.
No, I mean, but you know how I am. Like, I'm like, challenge me. Like, I'll talk to someone in the crowd. I'm like, you're not gonna beat me in this argument about like, I'll break down this whole joke until it's so unfunny to the crowd in front of you that like I'll just debate it because I don't know. I feel like I'm always ready for that part. But heckler, it won't be a heckler. Just I can see them on their phone or I can see the disgust on their face, but I know they haven't paid attention.
Right.
So it's like. There's that part. Comedy is great because it is very cathartic in that way too. Like if I need to get up and get therapy, that's what I can go bitch about everything.
That's your spot.
Yeah. I can go to an open mic any night and just go in the Tampa Bay area. When I was in LA, you can go to 3 in a night, you know. But like I can get that off my chest, and I feel like that people are trying to kind of like police that. What you can say and can't say on stage. And the line's always been like context. So there's racist jokes, right? But there's jokes with race in them about race, right? So like that's always my kind of line is like, was he angry? Was the tone angry?
Yeah, I think.
Was it funny?
Intent,
that's the other part.
Intent means a lot for sure. And I think, I mean, when we grew up, I remember Chris Rock. Like his, was it bigger and black or whatever his that set was back in the 90s was like I think probably the first stand-up routine that I had seen that addressed race. And then we get into the Dave Chappelle era,
right?
And that basically, to me, I mean, I think that comedy about race is topical, and it's in a sense, I think it kind of improves everybody's understanding of each other, and it humanizes everyone.
Yeah, it's. Man, it's that thing of kid gloves for everything, and it's like, no, at that level for Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle, they're talking about they're like philosophers to me, almost, you know, in a sense, because they're really pointing a mirror at what's really going on,
right?
But they're doing it in a concise and entertaining way,
right?
So like when It's like sprinkle some crack on them. Like it's like I saw a baby who just popped out. Said, "Hey, man," but like when they're really talking about what's going on, and if you deconstruct jokes, it's sometimes like I'll go, "All right, this is something funny I said. We were hanging out at lunch." And then I was like, what am I really trying to say? What's the overall arching theme? And if you watch Chris Rock, he's and he's open about it. He does it like a preacher. He'll say almost the theme to this chunk of bits, basically. And then like he'll say it like 4 or 5 times. You know, like women be shopping. Women be shopping or something like that. I don't even know if that's it from his. I can't remember. But it was like he'll say it 4 or 5 times. That's what preachers do. That's what advertisers do too. We've been talking about a lot about advertising for your firm.
Hillsborough Defense.
Yeah.
Hillsborough Defense. Hillsborough Defense.
And it is that thing of like tell them once, tell them a second time, tell them the third, whatever that business quote is for advertising. But there is that thing of like you'll notice if you watch preachers or you watch anything that's like Chris Rock or preachers is all I can really think about. Tony Robbins probably another thing. That they will say the exact same thing, the same way, multiple times because it drills it in your head. So like I told you when we started working, I was like, everything you do well is a marketing opportunity.
Right.
And I'm gonna keep saying it. I say it to you to say it to myself because I'm bad at it with us. But I had a boss that drilled that in my head. Anyway, we're getting down that road. We were kind of talking about. And I saw comments on Facebook last night. So Jameis Winston goes into, and we'll keep it. You don't have to go too in depth with this because I know this could also be a weird PR territory for you. But Jameis Winston goes into like an elementary school in St. Pete. I think.
Yeah, it was St. Pete.
And basically is like, oh, what's up? Here's where chicks should be. I gotta pull up.
He said something to the effect of, and he was doing it in the context of trying to relate to some young boys in the audience that maybe weren't paying attention, and he was trying to get them fired up. And then he kind of went into this off the cuff. You know, boys are supposed to be strong. You're gonna have a deep voice one day, be manly like me. And then girls, you know, are kind of expected to be. I think he used the word silent, which was a problem. And, you know, more polite, which I think is probably generally true that women in general are more polite. I hope I don't get in trouble for saying that, but
I'll say, yeah.
But
why would you?
Yeah,
that's like, black dudes have bigger dicks.
Yeah, which is I mean,
that's not
not that I have any knowledge of that.
I
personally. Do. Of course you do. But I mean, you know, if you look at what Jameis said, I don't know. I mean, I think it's a good teachable moment, right? For not just for Jameis, but maybe for everybody about gender roles and how complex that has become as an issue that we're trying to address currently. But, you know, for Jameis's purpose, I mean, you know, the kid's a 23-year-old quarterback. When you listen to the video, I don't think there was any negative intent on his part. And that's something we talked about earlier. When you say something, what's your intent behind it? Maybe it reveals Jameis's subconscious belief of what, you know, women are supposed to be in society.
Good call.
Which, you know, at that point, it certainly is something that Jameis maybe should understand a little bit better, and maybe this is a good moment for him to reevaluate whether that's the way things should actually be. Does he actually think that if he really sat down and thought about it constructively? Probably not. I don't think he would really come to that conclusion if you gave him the opportunity and posed that question to him, but I get why people are mad. I think that maybe there's a little bit too much blowback on Jameis as a person rather than, you know, focusing on the issue of just gender roles as it is in society.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I definitely have to remind myself, hey, go watch the video.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the thing. If you see just the headline, it's like Jameis tells girls to sit down and be quiet. And I mean, kind of. But
right.
But he was, when he tells the girls to stay seated, he says, "I want all my boys to stand up," because he wanted to address the boys. I don't think there's anything in and of itself wrong with wanting to address the boys in the room as a whole, as a group, which was his reason for saying boys stand up, girls stay seated. It wasn't like, girls, you don't ever get to talk. you should always be quiet, so sit down right now. And then he kind of dovetailed into that maybe.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm sounding like too much of an apologist for him right now. But
no, I mean, like I know you're a big football fan, but I know you draw a line when it's clearly kind of not acceptable. No, I think
like Ray Rice, bad. Joe Mixon, bad. Like all that's very clearly bad.
Dante Stallworth, bad.
Right. There's been a lot of bad antics in the NFL and people who have committed crimes. And
you're not saying it was good. You're just saying that like it's a Freudian slip, and maybe I said like he needs to take some improv classes because he really
right.
Like
I mean, if you think about
it, I walk in to do stand up or speech. I can do it with no notes and walk in because I've had a bunch of reps doing that kind of public speaking.
Yeah, and
if I went into football practice to throw 40-yard outs to Mike Evans that are grossly out of range, but he'll still catch them, that's going to be like, yeah, I can't do that shit.
Yeah, and I mean, everybody...
Probably ever.
and I mean, my whole job is to make sure what I'm saying is intelligent and it makes sense. Like, that's basically the fundamental purpose of my job. That's what I've been trained to do, and I still say stupid shit sometimes.
Right. So
for Jameis, I don't think this is the last time he's going to say something stupid that people take offense to.
Yeah.
It's going to continue to happen, but he's, hopefully he grows from it, and hopefully, we as a society aren't necessarily oversensitive and we don't have expectations for him that he's not going to be able to meet.
Yeah.
He's a polarizing figure as it is, obviously.
Kind of just sucks. He's like in a Tampa Bay jersey, and it's like we don't have we as a just area we need a PR person.
We do
a little bit, so that doesn't bode well around the rest of the country.
I mean, are you saying that we don't have a great reputation to begin with?
It's Florida more than it is the Bay Area. I think everybody that I've had come here is like, oh. I mean, there's not dudes just fucking dogs everywhere. Like there's, it's not like fucking Prison Peninsula or something like that. I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't fucking. Why would you think I would live here if it was fucking that? I like the amount of crazy. We're in Ybor City, which is like the Bourbon Street.
It's the epicenter of like drunken debauchery in Tampa, pretty much.
But I like being around chaos. I love following the chaos with the aforementioned Milo Yiannopoulos and how that was kind of really planned sabotage on him a little bit.
Somewhat.
I would not even somewhat. I guess now I'm thinking about it. There's
I
emails to media that's like, we're gonna do this Sunday night, so Monday morning it's gonna hit the press, and they got him at his peak on Bill Maher.
Was Bill Maher in on that?
No.
Okay, because I saw some snippet about how he was almost in some sense taking credit for exposing Milo, but I don't know. I enjoy watching Bill Maher. I don't agree with everything he says, but I don't know if he's just trying to take credit for something that he didn't.
I don't agree with most things Bill Maher says, but I do like his show, and I will watch that other side. Not to hate it, I just want to know, and not that I'm on the right or anything. I don't like either team. Basically, I hate both sides.
You're an equal opportunity hater.
Yeah, and I don't. Libertarian parties even. I don't even want to say I fall into that because they're starting to get their own kind of weird shit going on. Like, I'll make decisions on just what's rational and what's not.
Right.
I don't need to belong to any group to do that. That's been my belief, and so like when I watch Maher, I don't really agree with a lot of it. Even the structure of the show, it's always one shitty Republican guy in the panel.
Sometimes they have multiple conservatives on at the same time, but it's
really
occasionally. It's usually like they typically will have they'll try to get some sort of like conservative politician, and then every once in a while in addition to that they'll also have like a conservative writer on there too, or a journalist.
Really?
But I mean, it's probably more few and far between.
I'm saying
at this point.
That's
in whoever,
2 episodes out of a year, maybe.
Maybe so, but definitely the people that the conservatives that go on there, I think should be given credit for going up there and taking the punches, because anytime
Southern Dandy guy.
Yeah, anytime
that was on there.
Anytime a left-leaning liberal point is made, the entire audience just goes crazy,
right.
And then the right-leaning conservative will open his mouth or her mouth, and then the audience will just boo.
Right. Yeah. And again, I'll watch I don't seek out that Tommy anchor her show, like Last Point with Tommy or whatever.
That blonde chick that's kind of become famous in the last year.
I don't seek her out, but I'll watch it just to see what the perspective is. I think that's going back to comedy. I think that's what I really gained out of like watching 10 years of comedians, and like I don't agree with Bill Burr on everything, but he's hilarious. You know, his angle is his perspective is what makes it funny.
Right.
When it's kind of journalism and it's politicians, it's not supposed to be funny, and the perspective now is like, is this rational? That's always what I'm kind of asking.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that my political views have probably been formed by Jon Stewart's perspective more than anybody else.
Sure.
So I miss him.
Because
he should come back.
And I've told people, like, with doing this job as like a consultant, and we have like a consulting firm, agency, digital agency. I don't know what we call ourselves, but like I have so many people that tell me so much stuff up front because they know I do stand up, that like it'll be weird. We'll get into like a really like stuff they're like, I don't know why I just told you all that. Like I hear that a lot in like a first meeting with a lot of people, and I think there's some just something authentic or genuine about Jon Stewart because he was a comic that you go, okay, I trust him more than something that's buttoned up and robotic and
right.
like it almost feels like an AI kind of like a news anchor.
But with your point, if there's reason behind it, you can get on board with it. I feel like the points that he made always connected with me as being reasonable and logical, and they made a hell of a lot of sense.
Right. Well, how about this? Let's get off of this politics side because
you want to keep going about
no,
this
I'm
for
not,
another hour or two?
I'm not very educated. I don't do any political humor on stage because I'm not educated enough, and I don't have like opinions that I've really thought through about politicians or anything. So I try to get away from that. I have opinions, but I don't think they're educated opinions. I think the new thing for me is to say like, I don't know enough about that subject, so I'm not gonna give an opinion.
Right.
That's gonna be the new hipster thing to do.
I do that too on some stuff, but I don't know. We can definitely move on to something that
when
we
I
know
did
more
the GMAT,
about,
it was like not sufficient enough information was
Right.
always an answer, and I'm like, I feel like
put that one every single
choose
time.
D, yeah. Except that means you're underprepared for the GMAT. What's it called? So all right, so DUIs. Let's talk DUIs in Tampa, in Florida. What? And I'm sure you've had this conversation a billion times, but what should people do? Let's do this. What should people do? I guess you can't. We're not going to give legal advice, so we're not going to do that. What can you talk? I guess what can you talk about in the DUI area?
Yeah, I'm probably more open to discussing different scenarios people might find themselves in, and whether I don't consider it legal advice, but just based on my experience and what I've seen.
So I'll give a disclaimer
right
now. It's like, hey,
right.
this is not this is a comedic podcast. This is not a legal advice podcast.
I am not any of your lawyers yet.
Right.
We can work on that one day, but not right now.
Yeah. When Steve Fantetti comes on, he wrote his own weird long disclaimer, and he reads it on it. I might put it ahead of this in the intro. So his disclaimer. I'll just read his out.
There you go.
But it's like, like we were talking about this. Like, does email disclaimers, do they do anything? I don't know,
Probably
but
not.
we're gonna do it. We're gonna put it out there just because. Why not protect yourself with that? So let's throw some scenarios. You want me to throw one out, or you got some?
So there's a couple of questions that I think I get a lot, and it's the first one is always, do you blow or do you not blow? And it is a loaded question, and it's not one that I can answer up front. What I can tell you for sure is that if you've never been arrested for a DUI before, you've got the option to refuse to provide a breath test without facing any additional criminal sanctions. The kind of drawback to it is, let's say you're arrested for a DUI, they take you down to the station, you're faced with a choice. You either blow, and if you're above a .08, you get a 6-month driver's license suspension. If you refuse to provide a breath test, you get a 12-month license suspension. So when you're in that moment, the officer is basically telling you, if you don't blow, we're going to double your suspension. That's, of course, assuming that you're above a .08 to begin with, which nobody is necessarily. I mean, there's definitely people that know they're well above that limit when they get to the station, but there's a lot of people that only have a couple drinks and they have no idea what their BAC is. So, from my perspective, I'd only deal with stuff after the fact 99.9% of the time, unless I get a call during an investigation. But, you're looking at a situation where somebody in that moment does not know what their BAC is. As an attorney, I would much rather see somebody blow below a .08 and deal with that case as opposed to refusing.
Right.
So if you're kind of close and having a gauge for whether you're close is kind of the initial problem to begin with. But I mean, if you didn't have a lot of drinks, if you only had 2 drinks, I mean, it might be in your best interest to blow. It depends on your weight. It depends on your metabolic rate. And I can't answer that question specifically for anybody. But if you're drunk, like if you were straight up drunk and you have never refused a breath, blood, or urine test before in your life, and you're drunk, go ahead and refuse.
Yeah.
It's going to work out better for you.
You're right.
The caveat that I'm throwing in there about as long as you've never refused something before, the reason that that attorneys can't just give blanket advice to say, you should just refuse all tests at all times is because if you've refused once in your past and you do it a second time, it's a crime. And so if I said everybody should refuse, then I would be advising some people out there to commit a crime, which would get me disbarred, and I'm definitely not doing that.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
So I don't know if that caveat makes sense, but ultimately, it's definitely easier to deal with a refusal case than it is a case that has a high breath alcohol content. I can tell you that with confidence.
Okay.
So the blower refusal question to me depends on how impaired you think you are.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so let's add more judgment. Let's add more like kind of critical analysis while you're fucked up and pulled over.
Yeah. We're asking you to make some really critical thinking type decisions when you're already in that situation to begin with.
So let's talk about this because I'm learning a lot about your area as we're working together, and it's kind of like I didn't realize how quick you got to turn around and find an attorney.
Yeah. So when you get arrested
for criminal too, you told me
for both. So
because you do both,
right? And when you with DUIs specifically and criminal, ultimately, the minute you're arrested, it makes a hell of a lot of sense. If you can afford an attorney, go get one.
Right.
We can step in and we can take proactive measures to try to protect your rights, and we can get started early on in the investigative process to try to minimize whatever damage is coming. Turning back specifically to DUIs, what most people don't realize until you're in that situation is that when you get arrested for a DUI, you've got 2 different distinct legal proceedings. You've got the criminal case, which most people consider and think about, where you have the state attorney's office prosecuting you for a crime. We go in front of a judge and, we're either asking the judge to dismiss your case, or we work something out, or we try it.
Uh-huh.
What a lot of people don't understand is that when you are given a DUI citation, you've got that distinct legal proceeding with the Department of Motor Vehicles, where you have 10 days to decide what the hell you want to do with your license, and you have to address that within 10 days. So it puts a lot of urgency on people to hire an attorney soon, so you can, we can help you make that decision and do what's right for you in terms of trying to protect your ability to drive.
Okay. So, because it happens. People do get DUIs as much as you don't want them to. You philosophically do not want people in this area to get DUIs.
Right.
You've told me that. We've talked about hey, maybe we work with Uber or Lyft or something or whatever the ride share to reduce it, which is kind of almost an anti-angle.
Right.
But overall, you grew up here. You don't want to see this stuff happening.
Yeah, I drive on the roads too.
Right.
And I've got a wife and a 2-year-old, and that are in the car with me, or she's driving him around, and I don't want drunk people on the roads.
Right.
But at the same time, with my job and my business and what I do, my role is to help people work through that system if they find themselves in that situation. And I can tell you, DUIs affect every single socioeconomic class that we have in our community.
Really?
The richest of the rich, the poorest of the poor, everything in between. Everybody, people drink, whether they're poor or they've got money. Alcohol, people like it. Sometimes it's a problem for people. Usually if you get arrested for a DUI, at that point, there's at least a legal problem.
Right.
I think realistically it's gonna touch pretty much, everybody in a sense.
What's the, I'm always interested on stats of this stuff. I think I was looking it up the other day, but you tell me, ballpark, if you get 1 DUI, what's the likelihood you're going to get a second one? It's higher than I thought.
The recidivism rate, I actually don't know. I don't have that answer off the top of my head. I can tell you, I can give you some information, some general information on if you get a first-time DUI, like locally in Hillsborough County, what what your chances are in general of
Sure.
beating the DUI charge. Typically,
and that's public info, right?
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you're
So
throwing out.
it's actually to kind of give a shout out to my former partner Sam Harden. He developed
What up, Sam?
Yeah, he developed some software that basically went through the clerk system and pulled information on every DUI case for the last like 5 years.
Really?
And so it gives you some interesting data and some statistics, and ultimately, what he was able to show is that you've got, if you handle a DUI on your own, you don't even have the public defender or an attorney, chances of avoiding that conviction are, I can't remember what the number is, but it's really, really, really low. If you end up with a public defender on a first-time DUI, your chances of avoiding the conviction are between like 30 and 40%, I think. And if you have a private attorney, it's closer to 50%. So there is a distinct difference in whether you have the public defender's office or have a private attorney for misdemeanor DUI cases in Hillsborough County. And there can be a number of reasons behind that we can try to extrapolate out. But at the end of the day, your odds are better if you do hire somebody, if you've got the ability to do it. We've run our numbers in the past, and I don't know that in this forum I can reveal what my results are based on Florida bar ethics and advertising. So I'm not going to go there.
We're going to play it very conservative. Because they're going to be like, "What's a podcast?" First,
they just figured out what Facebook is.
Right.
And nothing against you, Florida bar. We love you, but
no, call us up. Well, I'll walk you through everything. Our number is 813-433-0403. Florida bar. You can call me up. I'll explain all this stuff to you.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll plug myself. But I feel like, do you feel like this will be all right? Do you feel like we're gonna have more rideshare systems in like the near future? Maybe it's not gonna be like our kids' lifetime. It'll be self-driving cars. It'll be a lot more rideshare.
Right.
It'll be.
I think you're right about that. I think technology is going to impact how we move about, whether that's through, automated vehicles, ride sharing. I mean, at some point it's going to make more economic sense to just do ride sharing than it is to own your own car.
I kind of hope we get there, because I talk about this on stage. Tampa Bay's number 18th in population, and we're top 5 in like traffic.
Yeah, we have a terrible public transport system.
It makes me irate.
Yeah, it does. But anytime somebody throws out a proposal, and this is maybe going off on a tangent that we shouldn't go off. But
this is tangent highway, man. This is what the podcast should be called, really.
If somebody proposes that we should do like light rail, everybody's up in arms about how that's a waste of money. If somebody proposes
crazy.
If somebody proposes that we do, expand a highway, everybody's up in arms over how we pay for it, or that it's only, or if we say, we'll just do, what's that?
The bit I do is about like, hey, I'm going to fix 2 problems in one. We legalize weed, get all the tax money. Don't spread that tax money across a bunch of shit. I don't want it to go to schools. I don't want it to go to a bunch of anything else. I just want it to go to transit. I want it to go to fucking light rail in this area, and I want it to go to a high-speed bullet train from Tampa to Orlando to Miami back to Tampa.
Yeah.
We call it the steamroller.
Yeah. and
the train that weed built.
Yeah. And that'd be fantastic if we could actually pull that off.
I don't know where that cut off, but we're back. Probably only a minute off or something like that. But
hey guys,
we were just bitching about other cities' traffic.
Yeah. Well, bitching about our traffic and how it relative to other cities, but
I had to delete a lot of porn. Call me old school. I don't do the streaming thing. I keep it on the desktop, and
there you go.
Sometimes I got to make room on this MacBook while we're recording. So, like, what do you? I guess as far as Tampa and I know we've talked about kind of bigger ambitions and stuff. Here's what I want to ask, because we work with a lot of let's say small law firms and younger attorneys, right?
Right.
And I've told you, and this is one of those things I'll keep repeating, that on my side, you're businessman first and kind of lawyer second now. They're both really important.
Right, of course.
But you have to, or they're equal to, at some measure. I know that hurts as a lawyer, you never want to say that. You'll never say that. I get it.
Yeah, but realistically, you're right. You have to be good at both. You have to focus on both. And I think when most young attorneys start a practice, they spend more time on the business end of it at first, because we know the law. The legal stuff comes easy to us. It's the setting up the business, getting new clients, just scheduling all of the operational stuff is what becomes the big challenge. I mean, it is a massive challenge. It's a massive undertaking. I've made mistakes. I've learned from them. I'm in a good situation now. And, when you get to the point where you are confident in your client base and your workflow and business coming in the door, it allows you to kind of, relax a little bit and focus more on the legal work, as you develop a staff and have people that can help you out and assist you in doing what you need to do.
Yeah, and luckily when you started, you had a partner that did do a lot of technical stuff too.
Right.
And partnerships are tough. We've talked about it. I had a partner as well, and it's really tough to do a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
And I was hosting this or emceeing and at this thing, Fuck Up Nights, where people get up and they talk about how they fucked up. And everybody on the panel was like, they're all older entrepreneurs. They've been through it for 30, 40 years, and they're all like, yeah. One of the guys was telling a story, and then all of them were like, oh, yeah, 50-50 partnerships. They don't work out.
And I think no matter what business it is, I mean, if you're doing a 50-50 partnership, at some point, one of the two partners is going to be generating more of the business.
Right.
There's just no way it can be evenly split, in perpetuity. So at some point that's going to cause financial friction, but there's always other things that go into it, and what people want to do with their lives, and your priorities, and there's a lot of factors that go into making a partnership work for sure.
Yeah, and I was green about it. I did it with a friend, and without getting too much in the weeds about it, there was things that maybe I definitely should have taken care of in the beginning, where it was really delegated out, like, here's what these roles need to be, and here's what the track needs to be, instead of being like, we just got to get business in.
Right.
If I just took a day to do that, that could have gone a long way. I feel like we're better now, no offense to him, but I have the agility to do what we need to do.
Yeah, and I think that as a business owner, you want to make sure that you do have that agility and that freedom to make the decisions that you want to make, that you think are best for your business and for your future. And that's the other complicating part about a partnership, is you're not going to see eye to eye on everything.
Right.
And, you obviously you want to, and in some respects it's good because it can kind of check against some of your worst instincts.
Yes.
But, at the same time, I do think that if you have more faith in what you're doing, more confidence in what you're doing, it will, it'll help in the future for sure.
So let's give out some practical advice for maybe some younger law firms on that operation side. Because I like giving I don't like the Tim Ferriss advice. I don't like this, just believe in yourself every day and it'll work out. I don't like that shit.
No.
So practice management software. What are you?
Yeah, so I use Clio for practice management software, and it's something that I didn't need to do at first. When I first started my practice, it was actually before Sam and I had partnered up. I was about a year and a half on my own before he and I got together. And, the first 6 months, I mean, if you get through the first 6 months, then that's when I think the fear kind of subsides a little bit, or it starts subsiding.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe the first 12 to 18 months is when you're like, okay, I'm actually going to be able to do this. But, what's scary is when you start your own practice, at least like me, I came from the state attorney's office where I was a prosecutor, and the state of Florida, quote unquote, was my client.
Right.
Right. So I didn't have a client.
Right.
I didn't have anything. I was just like, I'm going to go out there and get clients. And then you're, but how, and I had a situation with an attorney in Pinellas that he's my mentor, and the guy is awesome. And he was very helpful in, referring me cases that he didn't want a piece of, whether it was something smaller, whether it was in a different jurisdiction that he didn't want to go to. And so that was a good thing for me. But, you've got to have a plan as to how you are going to attract clients, whether that's through your partnerships with other attorneys in the community, or you have some other sort of actionable marketing plan that'll work. But for an actionable marketing plan, you've got to have money. And when you don't have clients, it's hard to have revenue.
Right.
So, cost control, overhead's obviously important, but then just having an ability to bring in clients. And in criminal, I mean, cash flow is a big issue too, like with what I do and with family.
Why is that?
Well, yeah, cash flow can be a problem for businesses.
No, but I mean, I'm talking
right.
about the clients.
So for us, well, I mean, the point I was, and I get where you're going with it, is that sometimes maybe people don't pay their bills all the time, but typically in criminal law, you'll get quoted a flat fee up front, by attorneys. A lot of attorneys these days are willing to do payment plans. I do on some bigger cases. I don't necessarily do payment plans on small stuff anymore, but
sure.
You
figure out what I do payment plans too for a lot of like people who are starting up, and I get cash. I empathize with the cash flow stuff, but when I do that now, I never did a VIG on it, and now I start to, just because you get burned.
Right.
And so it's just like,
and
I have
happens.
to charge more overall.
There's clients I'll never forget, because it might even be small amounts that they owed me, but the way that I feel like they almost swindled me in a sense. Like it sticks with you. So you learn from your mistakes, but for my business in like criminal defense, cash flow, you usually get paid up front. And so as you're starting off, you sign up your first client, you usually have revenue in the door that goes along with that.
Right.
If alternatively, we have mutual friends that are, that do injury work.
Right.
You don't get paid until the case is over with.
And it can be contingent.
Yeah. And it typically is almost exclusively a contingency fee, and it's paid on the back end when the case settles. It can take a couple months. It can take a couple years depending on the case. And so when you're in that type of, practice area, if you're going to start your own law practice, you've got to know, are you a cash flow up front type of operation, or is it something where it's contingency fee and you need to be able to float yourself and your house overhead and your personal overhead for a hell of a lot longer?
Yeah, and I think that's one important part when you're really starting out. Maybe you're just getting out of law school, or maybe you're just a couple of years in, is knowing which area you want to focus on in respect to cash flow. So if you do family law, some of those cases can take a year or longer.
And in a lot of family law, what I've learned about that, I'm working with an attorney now too that does a lot of family law, and they get retainers up front, and then they bill off that retainer until it's depleted, and then they get another deposit. So cash flow for family law isn't usually a big issue either, because it's all up front, which is a good thing from a business perspective.
Yeah, but it can be a bigger time suck sometimes.
No doubt about that.
To me, that's like I put everything for us. I put like singles, doubles, triples, home runs, right? So we have a couple prospects, like 4 in the hopper that I'd consider home runs. Like we'd have to probably hire someone immediately full time if that happened, because we do pretty much independent contractors as much as we can, because there's so many different variables and variations and people we need on different clients. So I try to fit the right team together for the right client. But like I have like 4 of those home runs. To me, a lot of the family law or personal injury, some of those bigger cases, those are home runs. You need the singles and doubles to keep the operation. But I guess if you're on retainer on family, I guess I was thinking family was more contingent.
Families, and I don't think you can even do, I might be wrong about this, I don't think you can do contingency on family law cases, but
it's not the norm.
Yeah, everybody that I know that does family law it's like a billable hour model with a retainer up front. So that's another area where you can get into, and you're pretty much cash flow positive as soon as you get your first client, which can take time. But
so talk about that. You don't have to be specific to the person, and we'll get out of here, because I think that first one is so hard.
So for me, and I think you're right about that. And I know a ton of guys and girls that have started their own practice, and it takes a while, and there's a level of discomfort and anxiety that comes along with it. But for me, I quit my job at the state attorney's office. Last day was a Friday in like the end of July 2012, and I had my first client on Monday, and it was just totally random.
Wow.
And I thought, like, this is great. I'm going to be rich.
That Saturday and Sunday we're like, go!
Yeah, I'm going to be really rich really soon if this keeps up like that. And obviously, it was just dumb luck. And, the first month I did better than I thought I was going to do. Second month, I remember I had like 11 days. I'll never forget it. 11 days without a single phone call about anything, whether it was a new client or a current client that just didn't get any phone calls. Yeah. And as that time wears on, man, it's definitely, it tests your patience, it tests your confidence, and it's an exercise that is it's not necessarily fun to go through, but I think it makes you stronger as a business person down the road. It helps you deal with that stuff as you go forward. Yeah.
Let me see if I can do this, and we'll close it on this. I'm going to see if I can give like a really quick ranty kind of strategy for a lot of the young attorneys, because we're working with a lot now, and so I'm thinking about it, and I think I can improv strategy pretty well for the marketing side and some operation stuff. I've shown you Slack.
Right.
When you scale up, that's going to be really useful as your communication hub. So there's stuff like that. I always think about our consulting firm, our value is to raise revenue, also decrease operation cost, which can be time or duplicative tasks, stuff like that. Just frustrating shit, like
Right.
a printer. Like, here, get this brother printer that's way better for what you need. Stuff like that where, like, your work-life balance is better too. Hey, here's a babysitting agency. Here's whatever you need. Here's our accountant. Here's whatever. I'm going to try to go down, and I'm not going to give any secrets we're doing, but I'll go through, like, so a lot of people that start their own firm are pretty green. You really need to work from, like, a real estate agent. What they are told in marketing is to work from your core out. So work for it's social capital is the geeky term in my industry. In the real estate industry, it's the sphere of influence. I've always called it the ripple effect. You have 3 rings, right? You have the core ring is going to be your friends and family. The ring around that, friends of friends. And then ring around that are friends of friends of friends, acquaintances.
Sure.
The 4th one, if you get there, is someone you don't know at all, no connection to you, but they hear about you through other methods.
A billboard.
Right. No direct connection. So you need to think about that in that perspective, because it's always going to start there. If you have no community in where you are, or even if you do, you should proactively be involved. Find a charity that makes sense, that gets it, that you can donate a couple hours to helping them. We always talk about corporate social responsibility. Find that nonprofit that you can help out, but they get it. They're also going to give you something back. It's a transaction. Don't get it twisted. You're getting something out of it. They're getting something out of it. Don't feel like you're a shithead. Although it does feel shitty to be like, hey, can I post about this, or can I talk about us working with you? No, it's fine. Most charities, nonprofits don't give. They're so welcoming of help from sane people, and not just volunteers for the day kind of thing, that you and find something that makes sense. I wouldn't do a national charity. I would find something that is a small business or a small nonprofit or charity locally that makes sense in your area. So, like, I was talking to a car repair shop, and I was like, we should work with the women's battered shelter and hook them up. You can do some in-kind work for them for the cars they have, or something like that. We can work with that, because that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, for sure.
That actually affects a little bit of change. If they can walk up and their car's not a total piece of shit, or they just feel better about having not that big of a beater.
I mean, yeah, and especially people like the people that find themselves in that circumstance. I mean, the fact that somebody is going out of their way to do something nice for them, like free of charge, is
you should do it anyway as a human.
Yeah,
but I mean, this is to me, it's more calculated on the business side, and it is that thing of like, yeah, businesses don't have a heart. They don't have to. It's totally fine. But you'll find out the more you put into the community you're in as a starting attorney, as a small law firm, the more you're going to get out. I push you to do a B&I group. I think that's valuable because you have to go every week.
Right.
You just have to be there. I know I'm saying it with a smile just because look, it's corny.
We've talked about it a lot.
No, it's corny.
Yeah.
I get it, but I know it's corny. I know it works though, and
right.
I know
and we've talked.
Right, it's a time
I know
thing.
Guys that do it. Though,
it's time.
And it works.
It's
too.
a time thing. I get it. It's hard to do everything right now, but at some point we will infuse that. But at the same time, that is a structured way to talk to 20 to 50 people every week, and you may not get any ROI on that until month 9, month 12. But I guarantee you'll get a lot of resources out of it, as far as like cost cutting or just your home life, where you're like, I don't have to look around for a fucking pest guy. I know a guy because I'd see him every Wednesday. So that's great right there. I'm going offline, and then I'm going to go online. Offline, a lot of networking groups are bullshit. So that's why I push B&I. I want to do a young attorneys group for y'all in the area, and this is something I'm going to have to create, but since I do have so many of y'all in different sectors too, a lot of people don't know attorneys just don't do everything.
Right. Yeah. No, it's the number of times that people they just kind of raise their eyebrow when you say I practice a specific type of law.
Right.
Or I get questions about plenty of things that I haven't thought about since I took the bar exam almost 8 years ago at this point.
So what I want to do in the same ilk of that B&I one, but this is a little bit different, and this is something we have to cultivate on your own. But I think there's going to be a lot of value in getting about 5 or 6 of y'all. You meet once a month. You can trade notes about business, the business of running a small firm, because y'all are gonna have stuff that I don't know about that's really insular to the legal field about running a business. But a lot of people don't realize a lot of law firms, most of their business comes in from other attorneys.
Yeah, for sure.
So you cultivate that relationship. I think if you do it now while y'all are young and it grows a little, y'all grow older with it, where you keep a really tight knit group that's specified. Y'all, and just to bitch about stuff once a month. There's something to be said about that.
It goes back to cathartic actions.
Right. So just somewhere to go, hey, I was with this judge, blah, blah, blah. Because no one else is going to empathize with you.
I just want to make this very clear. I never complain about judges.
Not you. I was saying
other lawyers.
Other lawyers I'm going to put you with.
Yeah.
So I think there's something to be said. I don't know. I think we should try it. It's an idea I've been kicking around, and I don't get anything out of it, but I think it will help all of y'all together. All right, so let's go online. Clean up your fucking LinkedIn profile. Get listed on LinkedIn Profinder. You need to have a decent website. Doesn't have to be amazing, but if you're smart, you do good content that comes from your voice. Just like this podcast, I'm going to take some of this and we're going to write some posts. I'm going to extract some of the things. I've been taking notes while we were talking.
Right.
I'm going to take some of that and we're going to use that as content.
And if there's any one online thing that I would tell an attorney to do, at the very least, just claim your damn Avo profile.
Yes.
Like just
yes,
claim it.
Claim it.
Try to participate in it. It's one of those. A lot of attorneys resist doing it because, at the end of the day, Avo is kind of fluffy and there's a circle jerk type of environment in there. But clients care so much about what your rankings are on
your
there.
Online reviews. If you're under a 4.4 on any online reviews, it dramatically decreases your ability to get leads.
Right.
We're partnered with a company called Bird Eye. I'm going to get the stats out on that probably in another podcast, but that seemed to be the biggest metric for that. That does matter. That's the world we live in. Lawyers don't like it. I get it. I know you don't like it. I don't really like it either, but hey, that's if something else comes along that's as important as reviews like that, we're going to figure out how to do that too. But there's accountability with that. There's something to be said. So when you have a case, and your client had a good time at the end of it, try to get them to write a review.
Yeah,
you're still a salesman.
That follow-up is important because it reaffirms, on an online environment, at least, who you are in the job that you can do.
A lot. And then the other not easy, but the other it's not so difficult, but just remember in that sphere of influence, a lot of what you're doing is reminding people you're around. Reminding that first ring and then that second ring, friends of friends, that you just exist as an attorney in the area. There's Tampa Bay is too saturated. I don't know the other areas, how other cities are, but I guarantee it's not a profession that you can't just swing a dead cat and find one. So I'm saying
there are lots of us.
So you have to remind people, hey, I'm around. I'm bad at this with us. Like people still don't know we do this. So I got to come up with a PR campaign in a different kind of way. But one easy thing to do once a month, send an email blast. Hey, we're around. Here's what we're doing. Have a reason. Figure out a reason to email everybody that you know through MailChimp. It's free up until 2,000 subscribers. And then and just say, hey, this month is blah, blah, blah month. It's always some kind of there's a legal something month for everything. And so this is DUI awareness month or something like that,
Lawyer appreciation month.
Well, March is coming up, so St. Patty's Day kind of makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this is you got to figure out reasons. It's not easy, but or just say, hey, keep my card. Just one that says keep my card on you, keep this email on you, bookmark us, whatever. Some reason, or hey, look what we did with this charity over here, that kind of thing. But remind people you're around, and that goes a long way because, like we talked about at the beginning, frequency of people being reminded about you is kind of advertising. I mean, that's advertising, that's promotion, that's marketing.
For sure.
It's going to take a lot of times, like 7 times, maybe 7 to 12 times, I think, is before it may click that someone's like, oh, I know what you do. Even though they're your friend. Everybody's got ADD. Everyone's an adult child. I can go on a 45-minute rant about this, but we both got to go. Anything else?
Not really.
Hillsborough.com.
Hillsborough Defense. Yeah, just say it 4 times and then never forget.
HillsboroughDefense.com.
HillsboroughDefense.com.
HillsboroughDefense.com. Now we sound like the bad radio ads.
1-800-411-PAIN.
Oh, we're keeping that in. All right, thanks for coming on, man.
See you, bud.